I'm Batman. My old friend, it seems you are mistaken, for I am the Batman. I think there's enough rats in Gotham. I don't even know who you are. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Player Display. Damn, I am so excited. So I just went on a little shopping run with a friend of mine, and we happened to come across a figure who isn't supposed to be out yet, but I happened to find them at one of my favorite action figure shops. So regardless, here he is. We have Max Schreck portraying Count Orlok as he was seen in NOSFERATU from 1922, an over 100-year-old film. It's worth mentioning that NOSFERATU is perhaps my favorite monster movie of all time, and maybe, let alone my favorite monster of all time. So this is a really big deal for me. I do already own the Sideshow Silver Screen edition of Count Orlok, but I really wanted him to be in the NECA format, especially because he could match up with the Universal monsters that we've been seeing from the line. As for NOSFERATU, he's of course not a Universal monster. He is from Prana Film, which is now defunct, and as a result of that, I believe it's public domain, and that's why we're getting a reboot of some sort, or remake, within the next few years, which I'm really excited about. So anyways, here's the box here, and we're just going to do a full-on unboxing, because really I'm that excited to do this figure, and I don't care how late at night it is right now, so let's get right into it. So over here we have a portrait of NOSFERATU, and then down here we have NOSFERATU, a Symphony of Horror. Looking very cool, emblazoned in that red font. Down here we have just Ultimate Action Figure, because here they're just calling him straight up NOSFERATU, not Count Orlok. I kind of wish that they went with one of the theatrical posters that they had at the time, or the artwork or something like that, but this still looks really sharp. I mean, it's very crisp, can't knock it, it looks very cool. Going on to the sides, we have some alternate posing options for this figure with his different accessories. Here we have him in his little nightcap, I guess, with some keys. Off to this side, we have him with this big old grin over here. We're going to talk about that a little bit with one of his claws. And then off to the back, we have a whole bunch of other portraits, posing options, and accessories, like that little quill and bottle right there, which I do not plan on using, but it's an Ultimate figure, so obviously you're going to get an Ultimate treatment. Going back to the front, we can go ahead and panel that open with the help of some Velcro. We have another portrait of the actual figure this time. This time it's not artwork, it is an actual photo shot. And then over here we have the figure himself with all his accessories. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get our old friends Betsy and Donnie, because there's a whole bunch of plastic tabs in here that I gotta trim out. It's gonna take a little while, so bear with me here for a minute, folks. So, closing up that front panel, let's go ahead and cut away that top piece of tape, just like that. Open it like a shoebox, as per usual, nothing new here at all. The boxes are widely unchanged for Ultimate releases from NECA. Fold open backdrop, which we will also have a little look at. Actually, I almost forgot to include the backdrop, but here it is. Nice looking gated area. Kind of wish it was that door, though. It would have been really cool to have the figure standing right there, right outside the door. But regardless, looks great. So you can use that in your dioramas if you wish. And a little piece of plastic just fell out. Not sure what this belongs to, but that's okay. I usually scrap the boxes anyhow, at least after I take off the front portrait, or a panel at least, so I can have a little mini poster to go with my wall. But anyways, here is the figure in the plastic bubble, looking very cool. And it looks like we have 2 slots of pop-out plastic that are pinning in some accessories without the need of the plastic tabs. And then we have the actual figure himself, pretty much imprisoned by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of those plastic tabbies, so that's going to take a little while. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll have a look at the main figure. Alright, so for any folks out there who are wondering who NOSFERATU is, or what the film was, it was a film released in 1922, and it was effectively an unauthorized film adaptation of Bram Stoker's classic novel Dracula. But of course, it was done without anyone's permission, so as a result of that, Bram Stoker's widow actually went after the copyright holders of this film and ordered that, first of all, she get a lot of money, which she did, and secondly, that every single copy of the film be obliterated. But obviously, that never happened, and now we have this very strange and uncharacteristic version of Dracula to add to our shelves, to our film collections, and whatever have you. And he's really just gone down in lexicon as one of the greatest movie monsters in film history. And as I've said, he's one of my personal favorites. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a closer look at Count Orlok over here. And honestly, when I first saw the promo images of this figure, I had my doubts, and I don't know why. I mean, NECA's always been doing a great job with Universal Monsters. Why would it be that they'd flunk up here with Nosferatu? I guess for me, I just love this character so much, I really wanted to be sure that they do him justice with the photo likeness, with the accuracy of the colors and everything. I didn't want him to look too goofy or cross-eyed or anything like that. I was just really into the idea of having the perfect ideal Nosferatu figure. And you know what? NECA doesn't do you dirty. They always deliver, and I mean, just look at this head sculpt. It's absolutely amazing. It was actually kind of hard to gauge from the promo shots on BBTS where I had my initial pre-order as to what the faces would look like because the shading was very off. But now having it here in hand in the light, which I'm sure he's not enjoying, it looks absolutely astounding. As I've said before, it's very hard to get the likeness of characters from black and white films, silver screen era films, because of course it was very film grainy. You had films that have been restored and colorized. The music can be totally different. So with all that in mind, I mean, I guess aside from the music, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what these characters in their respective costumes and makeup looked like. But as for Max Schreck over here, I think they did a beautiful job. I'd suspect if we ever met the man in the flesh and bone with this makeup, this is probably what he'd look like, and they did a fantastic job. So let's go ahead and pull into this initial head sculpt here, and it's so good. I mean, you got the big bushy eyebrows up here. You have these really piercing eyes and this stare. And I like how this is technically a colored version of this character. Like, one thing I have said in the past is there's one character in cinema that should always be in black and white, and that is Count Orlok, Nosferatu. And that's not what they did here, but it still works. I mean, they've got this coloring in the eyes, making him look almost bloodshot, which looks very good. You also have the shading around the eyes and the eyelids that's not quite gray, but almost like this very dark, deep sunken purple or violet or something. But it just looks beautiful. It's really fun to look at. Just all these little tiny details to nitpick, down to the little bit of hair, these little tufts above each of the pointing elven-looking ears. And yeah, it just looks really great. It also looks like he's wearing a bald cap, which is also very fitting to the film. And it's just beautiful. It's such a marvel. You got the teeth, the fangs, you got the wrinkles around here at the mouth that are asymmetrical. It's astounding. I can't believe they did this well. It just seems like every time I get a new Universal monster, or I guess in this case, classic movie monster from NECA, they just do something a little bit better than what they did before. They're constantly improving, innovating, just making these figures better and better with each installment. So I could keep ranting and raving about this one head sculpt, but there's a whole body here to look at. So let's go ahead and pull one out. So as I said, they did actually go ahead and use some creative color choices when making this figure. And for the tunic, it's not in a grayscale at all. It's not monochrome. They went with this tan brown color, and I actually quite like it. I think it suits this character very well. I've seen iterations of this figure, like the colorized sideshow figure, 1/6 scale figure, where the cloak was red and his face was almost like this pale yellow and it looked really awkward. But in this case, he got this muted brown, and I think it fits in really well with that monochrome sepia tone that we've been getting from the different iterations of the film. Yeah, I just think this is a believable color for him to be wearing if you were on set with Max Schreck in the full costume, and he just looks really great. The one thing here that I kind of wish they did, although it's not a big deal at all, is we have all these little buttons over here that tie up towards the center. I kind of wish they painted those in black or something like that, maybe a dark gray, but really not a big deal. I mean, again, it's hard to gauge when you're watching the film what the colors would have been. And then over here, we have this under tunic right there, a little bit of a black shirt, a little glossy, I suppose. Maybe it could be a little bit dulled down to match the rest of the figure, but not a huge deal either. I mean, it's so dark down there, you could barely notice it at all. Then you got some sleeves over here with some black cuffs around the wrists. The hands are also really nice. You can look really close and you see there's almost this faint purple, which again, I really like. I think it complements this figure very well. You also got some white claws over there, which of course we'll see a lot more of in the accessories department. Got some black pants with some black shoes. Reminds me a little bit of Frankenstein and some of the other Universal monsters that we've seen in the past. Going around to the back, pretty much the same thing that we expect here. Continues with that brown tunic. 2 more unpainted buttons, which again is fine. I mean, it's on the back, who really cares? And then a whole lot of very subtle wrinkle work in the sculpt. There's like also this very subtle gray wash throughout the tunic as well, I feel like. And yeah, it's just a gorgeous figure. I can't wait to change out all the accessories and see what else we can do with him. Here we are at accessories, where once again NECA does not disappoint. Over here we have one of his first alternate head sculpts. In this case, he's got this very heavy scowl. He just looks very disappointed and pissed off. I can't really place where exactly in the film he would have seen this expression, but regardless, it makes him look a lot more serious, as opposed to the very charming and suave Bela Lugosi Dracula, who we would have been seeing, I think, about a decade later. So this is a very good alternate head sculpt to have. And then over here, I really wanted to talk about this third head sculpt, where we've got this big old grin with this side eye. And when I first saw this in the product shots, I'll be honest, I hated it. I thought it was the weirdest thing. But then I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. First of all, it is film accurate. I mean, this is the expression he had when he was climbing out from the Demeter after slaughtering the crew, so this actually makes perfect sense. And also, if you're a 2000s kid like me, then you know that classic scene from SpongeBob where NOSFERATU made a cameo for some reason.
Wait! If that was you on the phone and you on the bus, then who was flickering the lights? NOSFERATU!
To this day, no idea why they did that, but as a kid, all I knew is that I was terrified. But anyways, there's that head sculpt for you. We also have a nice jangly set of keys, looking very good. It seems like the chain is a metal or maybe a plastic. I can't really tell because it's so small and dainty over here, but it looks like we have 6 keys. That's actually a very good amount. I'm not sure if they vary in sculpt. They vary in length, so it looks like they put in a lot of effort here. Then over here we have a little vial of ink along with a plume to sign the documents of some sort for the main character in the film. It's hard to say who the main character of Dracula is, honestly, but we got the quill over here, we got a little vial of ink. You can go ahead and plug this in, I suspect. Yeah, you can. So you can have that as one accessory. If you don't want him holding the quill, you just plug that right into there, and it holds in very well. And one detail I did want to note is that you have a little bit of ink splatter right here, which is pretty realistic, because if you're putting the quill in, then obviously it's not going to be a clean shot. It's going to, you know, kind of get a little messy and then go in. So I like that they included that. And also the quill itself looks beautiful. It looks like an actual feather. They gave it a gray wash here instead of it just being slate black. I mean, again, NECA doesn't do you dirty. I really love that they did that, and it's just very cool. In fact, we'll go ahead and leave it like that for a little while. Next, we have his little nightcap for whenever he's taking his little vampy naps, and that can go on any of the hats. You can't put a hat on a hat. Well, and again, I guess you could, but you can put the hat on any head that you want. So it's not keyed or anything. You just slot it on, turn it around to any angle that you wish. Looks pretty good right about there, a little more symmetrical. So got the scowl there. And if he's running around chasing his buddies during a sleepover, you can put it here on that little smiling head as well. It doesn't fit quite as nicely. The heads vary a little bit towards the top, but it is possible. You can do that. And let's go ahead and get it on the more fiendish looking grimace, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it, but yeah, it goes on this head too. So very modular. You can go on whatever portrait you prefer, so that's very nice. We also have this very cool looking bottle of wine, and if you have the NECA release of Dracula, he will have a bottle of wine as well, so kind of neat to see that continuation of 2 films trying to harken back to the Bram Stoker novel, so I find that very neat. But this bottle of wine, it looks really stylish. I don't know if this is something that was normal in the 20s or what, but looks very cool. I like that a lot. And then next up we have not really Not really 3 pairs of hands, because we've got some, I think we have more I think we have more righties than we do lefties, which is a little bit awkward, but regardless, they still all look really good. So over here, we have 2 various gripping hands for the right, depending on what you want him to be holding. So over here, we have him looking like he can hold a lightsaber over there. I'm not too sure what that would be for. We have this one over here. I think this would be better for the quill. You got a little parting in the fingers there. So if you want him writing something up, you could do that. Over here we have almost a fist, but it looks like there is a little bit of room up there so you could plug something in. Again, I'm not totally sure. These hands are pretty universal. I mean, no pun intended with Universal Films, which this is not, as I've said before, but yeah, just good to have options. Not too sure what they all do, but they're there. Then we also have this one lone open hand, which I find a little strange. We don't really have that similar counterpart over here. I guess this one would be for holding the bottle of wine. Yeah, that seems about right. So holding the wine, that little canister of ink, you can do that as well. And then the hands I prefer the most, and the last hands that we have to look at, are the really spindly finger hand things, which look really gnarly and terrifying. And these are the hands that he came out with when he took over the Demeter, and then he stood out there in one of the most iconic shots of the film, and his fingernails were extended, almost like Freddy Krueger, kind of. So I'm really looking forward to trying these ones out. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, we also have this letter over here. I believe that he received this from Renfield. I could be wrong about that. I love the film, but for the life of me, I'm so bad at remembering names, who did what and all that. There's 2 female leads, so I always get confused, so forgive me on that. But here we have the letter with a whole lot of hermetic symbols, I don't recall which. But another fun trivia fact about this film is the director of the film, Murnau, I believe, he was an occultist himself, and he used a lot of that occultist imagery and language, like on this letter, in order to inform the film, which is very cool. So yeah, it's just really interesting film all around. I mean, it's spooky for a reason, right? Here we are at Articulation, and as we kind of just saw, it has the basic dumbbell treatment in the neck, so he's got that much down, which is actually very good. A little bit back, got some tilt, got some swivels, although it does stop where the neck portion of the jacket begins. As for the arms, they should swivel 360. I don't want to force it, but you can do that, although the tunic kind of gloves over it, so it stops a little bit, but he doesn't need to go 360 anyways. Can come out 290, looks like. Elbows hit past 90 and have a little bit of a swivel. All the hands swivel once they're ported in, and they all hinge out and back in, just like so. As for the torso, I think there might be a joint in there, but I can't find it here. So we do have a swivel down here when we work the legs, though, so we at least have that much. He can crunch forward a tad and back just a little bit, around the same amount. Got some tilt. And then down here in the legs, I suspect we won't be getting a whole lot forward. Yeah, pretty much ends there. But we do get a lot more back because he's got the slit in the back there. Again, it's probably more film accurate. Again, very good attention to detail. That's what NECA does. As for knees, actually, a little further than I thought. It looks like that's about 90. Let's peel that back bit. Yeah, just a hair past 90, so that's pretty cool to see. I mean, it doesn't mean much if you can't go forward a whole ton in the legs, but still, it's there. So if you want it, you got it. As for feet, we got that much back, that much forward, no toe articulation. That's not really NECA's forte, but you do have the usual rocker. Excellent figure, no complaints. NECA, chef's kiss, beautiful job. Here we are at a few size comparisons. So over here on the left, we have the McFarlane Michael Keaton Batman, who's been modified with a new head sculpt and cape. We saw a tutorial on that before. Don't know why I threw him in. I guess I was just feeling a little cheeky with the whole bat theme, even though NOSFERATU is more of a rat vampire than a bat vampire, interestingly enough. Speaking of bat, we of course have the original, official Dracula over here, the Bela Lugosi Ultimate release from NECA. Then over here we have Lon Chaney Sr. as the Phantom of the Opera. And as for one of the taller guys, we have a recently reviewed creature from the Black Lagoon. And last but not least, we have the Star Wars: The Black series, Mechamuck!
Oh, another vampire joining the shelf? Okay, Bela Lugosi was pretty cool, so this guy can't be too bad. That's ungood. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Goodbye.
And that just about concludes this review of NECA's Ultimate NOSFERATU, who may be now my favorite NECA figure. I say that with every new NECA figure we look at, but that's just how it goes. Again, they keep getting better. They keep improving the formula. They keep throwing in new surprises. And this one is a big surprise. I can't believe that they went this far and did it so right. Now, there was another release of NOSFERATU for anyone who's interested. It came from the Super 7 line. I held that one in my hand, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I didn't pick it up, although I have seen it in person. It is more on the pricey side, although it comes with less stuff. So, yeah, NECA, I mean, for the value, this is the way to go, honestly. And also the faces are just done a lot better on these ones. And I could say that for sure now that I have one in hand. It just looks great from head to toe. Everything here is done just right. Fantastic figure across the board. And for those of you who have not seen the 1922 classic, I highly encourage that you check it out. It is silent, so it does require a degree of patience, but it's only an hour long. And again, like I said, there are multiple versions of the film, so you're going to want to go out there, do a little bit of research, figure out which one's worth picking up or renting. But ultimately, I've deduced that if you can find a version where someone's smashing an organ like the version I've been watching, then you're in the right place. I mean, that's pretty much the best way to watch the film. And the film on its own, with all the edits and stuff aside, as it stands, it really is a great movie. It's a wonder to behold. It's an absolute staple of Gothic horror, and it's totally worth at least one viewing, just so you could say that you've watched it. And it's a pioneer of one of the greatest genres within film, being the vampire genre. And all started with this little crazy little rat freak over here. And speaking of rat, that's pretty much the one thing that they could have included with this figure, just to make him a little bit better. Maybe a few rat accessories to scurry around him. I think there was also a possum at one point, so that's something that they could have done. But honestly, it's an ultimate figure. He has a ton of stuff. I'm not even complaining. He's great. Highly recommend that you pick him up whenever he shows up. We are also getting Lon Chaney Sr. once again as the vampire detective from London After Midnight. So I also have that on pre-order. Don't know if I'm going to come around him as luckily as I was to come across Count Orlok over here, but then we'll have 3 vampires on the shelf, and another Lon Chaney, which is never a bad thing, so that will be really interesting. So anyhow, that just about concludes this review. Let me know what you think about this figure, and what you thought of the film, if you've ever seen it or plan to check it out. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
Ring the bell to be notified of our latest arrivals. And subscribe.
This is the editor speaking, humbly reminding you to support the pod Patreon in the description to guarantee new content every single week.
Thank you guys very much for watching. Rock on, and I will see you all later.